Takina, takina, taki takina mai te manu o te rangi, karanga mai, karanga mai, karanga mai. Karanga mai e tāne kia Māori koe ki tērā moana ki tērā henua waihua tuai. Māu e ki mai kia tāraia mai he hoe. Māu e ki mai kia tāraia mai he waka kia pai ai. Tū te tauihu, tū te taurāpa. Pāta tai e ake māna ko koe ki runga kua hau ki raro nei e, kare kauana te kare a roto nei e. Ko whakatau anake te toi tā maua, whiti rawa tūmai rā te toki. Haumi e, hui e, tāi ki e. Hoi ne mihi tonu ana ki a koe e kura. E tō tātou manu kura. Tēnā koe, tēnā koutou ko te iwi kāinga, me ngā mihi o te rā. Tēnā koutou katoa, tēnā koutou e ngā manuhiri. Tēnā koe Amajit, koutou ko tō hunga. Collaborative Aotearoa, e mihi nui atu ni kia koutou katoa, tēnā koutou, kia ora koutou. It's cool to be here. It's cool to be here to talk about collaboration. Tēnā koe Sylvia. There's some fabulous kōrero in there, and I like to think that what I'm going to share today will be elaborate and a little bit about some of the things that you were talking about. Tēnā koe Sylvia, thank you. Okay, ka mua, ka muri. I think most people are aware, certainly New Zealanders are, that the Māori perspective of history is that we walk into our future backwards. Our past is always before us. Our future is behind us. And that's not an uncommon thought for thinkers of any society. It's been said that past is prologue, or that those who forget the past are condemned to repeat it. I'm very fond of what Mark Twain, I think, said in terms of history doesn't repeat, but from time to time it rhymes. I like thinking like that. Partly it's because I'm Māori and I'm kind of configured that way. And I kind of look at it like this, that my past, our past, is always in front of me, and that I'm walking into the future burning out with whatever I cogitate, burning it out through the eyes and the back of my head. And I've found in my life, this helps. And just to sort of preface what I'm going to say about thinking about the past, I became a superannuitant in April, turned 65. I'm in denial. I leave my gold card at home and I'm not yet lining up to Bunnings on Tuesdays for my 5% discount. But it does give me cause to think back on my life and how I got here. And I do so with great gratitude, because I made decisions early in my life that I'm grateful for, quite frankly. I do want to say by way of context that I'm here to talk about the world of stories and their impact on a particular community, the one that I live in Ōtaki. When I made the move into working in television in the early 80s, I came there from the Race Relations Office. My first job was in the Race Relations Office. And it was there, investigating cases of racial discrimination, dealing with the Springbok tour and all that stuff, that I discovered that I'm a kind of diplomatic kind of person. In fact, excuse the crudity, I've realized that my superpower is I'm not an arsehole, because I run teams. That's what producers do. We run teams. We get on with people. You've got to draw the best out of people. But back in the day, I learned about myself, I guess, in the Race Relations Office, and that I have a particular type of personality inclined to diplomacy. And because I've gone out to learn my language, to find my tribe, and all of that kind of story, I do know or have empathy for those who are on that kind of journey as well. I eventually got into television at a time when it wasn't popular to be Māori in television. In fact, television was just kind of starting. And for those of a certain age, you may or may not relate to this, but I remember in the early 80s seeing Sel Murupainga on TV doing a poraporoaki, or a formal farewell in Te Reo Māori, in the Māori language. And it just blew me away that this sort of stuff could be said on TV, because I'd only ever heard that kind of thing on the marae. And this just spoke to me at the time, the early 80s, of a new world where the Māori language, the Māori culture and Māori stories would burst out on our screens. We were just at the beginning. And I was lucky enough to get into the industry at that time. I think stories are essential. We should all appreciate that. And as a species, after food and after shelter, the next thing we need is stories. And that will never, never, ever stop. And I'm grateful that in this world of stories, certainly in television, as I look back over my working life, the things that we dreamed of back in the 80s for our language and for our culture, like seeing or hearing the Māori language on TV in prime time and all that growth, have come to pass. And it still blows me away how far we have come in those few decades. One of the advantages, I guess, about being in your mid-60s, well, actually, I first realized it when I was in my 40s. You go to the 21sts of people that you held as babies. Then you start to see a generation and what that means. Now that I'm in my 60s, I see that twice over. And I suppose it's a lived experience thing, but I've kind of got to the point now where I can look at little people and I think, I can tell what you're going to be like. You're going to be a hunter. You're going to be a teacher. You're going to be a little shit. I mean, you can see this stuff in our kids as you grow up. It's just part of being human, I think. And part of it, to a very great degree, is because we look back. We look back at precedent. The Māori perspective, if you like, of the past as prologue whakaaro was really with regard to whakapapa. Now, whakapapa is popularly thought of as meaning just genealogy. Well, I shouldn't say just genealogy or family trees. It's more than that. A papa is a level. Whakapapa are levels. So we're talking about levels of persons or people, i.e. a family tree, levels or layers of experience. We are now the net result of all that has gone before us in so many ways. And boy, oh boy, are we in a tender time of history. For most of humanity's existence, we've kind of just been going along fairly at a certain level of development, at a certain rate. Come the Industrial Revolution, that development went up because we learned to function beyond our muscles. Currently in the digital and the artificial information world, we're learning to function beyond our brains. Our development is going up in a scarily precipitate kind of rate. No wonder there are so many problems in this world. You know, the aphorism that, that we know the price of everything but the value of nothing is sadly coming to pass. As much as we can despair at all the partisan stuff we see happening in the world, the war, all those kinds of things. Yet there is cause for optimism, and I look back over my life, and like I say, I'm glad I made the choices that I did because I see so much to be optimistic about. I'd like to sort of make a brief mention before our first clip, Carl, that one of the glories about working in film or in television or in stories is that we have a whakapapa of film. We have a heritage. Any Māori is predisposed to be interested in history. If you respect the words of your elders and the stories of your people, you're predisposed towards history. I just want to share a little bit of an insight into the beginnings of Māori film. This clip's about 10 years old, so it needs a bit of an update, but this, in a sense, is part of our legacy in the Māori film world. Play, Carl.
We made warriors together 3 or 4 years later. I took the whole crew aside and said, look, we're going to be making this picture. I said, everybody has to look at their department. And anybody that you can put in your department who's Māori, who's working, and they may not be that experienced, but if you can fill a hole in your department with Māori, you need to start training up people in this industry. We're making a hard-edged Māori film, which is going to may or may not resonate or something, but and we're going to have Māori in front of the camera. It's important that they see Māori behind the camera, and there's a place for that.
Everybody's contribution was valid and recognised. I think it was the treaty working as it potentially should have. It was Māori and Pākehā together, and obviously with Lee's voice, kind of one of the strongest. And Lee had a lot of good lieutenants around him, both Māori and Pākehā. It was exciting.
Being Māori, seeing Māori on screen, you know, that's a huge buzz.
Maybe that's where we're getting to in terms of the whakapapa of film and storytelling. The wairua will speak for itself. And obviously those films that have worked and have travelled really well, they're not trying to explain everything because they don't have to. And maybe that's where we need to be now. We need to be like, hey, it doesn't matter that you don't understand, because there is going to be a community, a worldly community that will understand.
Now, since that time, of course, we've had many other films like Muru, like Whina, like Poie. The top 10 grossing New Zealand films, box office-wise, 9 of them are Māori films or have Māori content. There is a great deal of popularity with Māori stories in the film world, and that is growing internationally. The three people you saw at the end of that clip there, Merata Meta, Don Selwyn and Barry Barclay, they're important to us because they're our elders, if you like, of the film world, and looking back to the past to inform the way I act in the future, I can't help but think of the things that people like that told us. For example, Barry, when he made the series Tangata Whenua, he himself was kind of looking for his language, looking for his roots, and he said that the camera has to have manners. And he did that because he put the camera a long way back from the elders. In his estimation, the camera had to have manners, and that simple thought has stayed with me. Merata Meta. One day we were having a workshop at Merata in Jeff's place, and, you know, we were there for 3 days. We did our exercises. On the last night, we showed our final exercise, had a party, and in the morning, we got up, get ready to go. Merata walked in, and the place was a tip. There was crap everywhere. And she bollocksed us big time. And the learning I got from that is clean your own shit up. The third point from Don Selwyn used to say, and it's become a mantra certainly in the film industry now, ko te kaupapa kei mua. It's not about you. And so when we work collectively, we work for a kaupapa, we don't work for our own personal gratification. When we tell stories, we have to tell the stories to someone. There's no point just telling it to ourselves because that's self-gratification. You have to be able to know your audience. You've got to have empathy. You've got to understand that person that you're telling a story to. So in the world of stories and in the world of film, and certainly with Māori radio and Māori television, we've seen enormous growth over the years, so much so that our country has changed forever and a day because of the work of Māori storytellers. The normalcy of te reo Māori in our society and a lot of Māori thinking is because the people refuse to give in, and we've found ways to tell our stories. Now, one of the things about working, again, older, I'm getting as much joy these days working with younger people as I am by working with my peers. And particularly this has come into light since I made the decision, well, actually first in 1998, which is still one of the happiest days of my life because I left Herne Bay, Auckland to move to Ngaruawahia. Because I wanted to go to a town or a place where I go to the supermarket in my pajamas and no one cared. I was lucky because I could work from home. All I needed was a Wi-Fi and a route to get to the airport, and I could do what I do. So moving to that small town, to that community in 1998, changed me in positive ways. Recognising my good fortune, and as my life developed, I eventually moved to Ōtaki about 12 years ago. Now, Ōtaki holds a special place in my heart. Ōtaki is a small town about an hour and a quarter north of here, or an hour if you go through No Transmission Gully. And it's a town of about 6,000 people. In 1985, I was sent there to make a story about the brand new Te Whare Wānanga o Raukawa and their immersion education or language education systems or courses that were just starting. Now, this tribe had made the decision in the 1970s, I'm talking about Ngāti Raukawa, Te Aotearoa, Ngāti Toa. These tribes made the decisions, or their elders made the decision in 1970, and it was encapsulated in a kōrero called Whakatupuranga Rua Mano, or Generation 2000, where basically the people were going to take control of their own lives and adhere to Māori principles, Māori concepts, take control. Now, in 1985, the intellectual, the educational side, the Te Whare Wānanga, or the first Māori university, was in its early days. At that time, there were only 70 speakers of the Māori language up and down the Kapiti coast, and most of those people were in their 70s anyway. Now, 25 years later, I moved back to Ōtaki, and because of the work of Te Wānanga o Raukawa and the tribal imperatives and people who just wouldn't give in, around half of the Māori population of Ōtaki have a working understanding of the language. You hear the language in the streets, you hear it in the supermarkets, and I remember once when we had a video shop, when there was such a thing, I was walking in, I was looking at some vids, and a young mum walks in talking Māori to her kōtero. And then the Pākehā guy who was behind the counter had been listening, because suddenly he says, "Oh, hei kone, kei tini tahanga videos mo te Incredible Hulk." And I thought, holy shit. Yeah, it was a fist pump moment, because I could see very, very quickly that, you know, in one generation to have such language regeneration in one generation, just amazing, just amazing. Now, about 2014, my wife, Libby Hakaraya, a filmmaker, and we made a short film called The Lawnmower Men of Kapu. It was a short film that was shown in festivals overseas, and we decided to make our own indigenous film festival, which started with Māori Land. Do come to Ōtaki, there's an awful lot of good merch there, but just to explain a little bit further, we started our film festival to show our films to our audiences, to show indigenous stories to our audiences. I think most people can see that in the film world, at least, and particularly in television, you know, we're being swamped by reality TV where there's no reality whatsoever, or there are franchises about insects and superheroes. Substantial stories are hard to find. You see substantial stories in the indigenous film world. So we started the Māori Land Film Festival in 2014, and it went very, very well. In 2016, we decided to set up a trust and purchased the biggest building in Ōtaki, the department store known as Ed Houses. We did that. We had no money, but we engaged upon a lease and we hired out the venue to productions and gigs and stuff like that. And eventually, we got the wherewithal to open up the premises, and thanks to Uncle Shane Jones, we've had earthquake strengthening and all those kinds of things. We have a headquarters in Ōtaki. We have our own tūranga waiwai, which on reflection I think is a big cause for our success. We can say whoever we want to work with or not. And in the course of that, our festival was running. In 2020, when COVID hit, we only had one day of our festival, our annual festival, then we had to close it down because of the bug. We had a whole lot of our young people working with us at the time, because our young people, our rangatahi, insisted on their own Indigenous Film Festival. We like to listen to our young people, and so we did that. However, with the cancellation of the 2020 festival, or after one day, we got our young people to engage in making their own work. We taught them how to pitch their ideas, and we encouraged them to use this period in isolation to write. and to go and make films. And so we set up a long process, standing by Carl for the next clip, and whereby our young people made 6 or 7 short films. I'm going to show you some extracts from some of them, because they reflect some of the principles that I find very, very important about Indigenous storytelling, the most important of which is our stories have to heal. The rethink of the BBC way of talking about film and television in that instance is that the medium exists to educate and entertain, or to inform and entertain. But from an Indigenous point of view, we too feel that our stories should be able to heal. Now, these are just a short clip of some short films that were made by our young people, and they've shown all over the world. But they'll give you a taste of what our young people are thinking about. And I appreciate what our young people are thinking about, because I realise, as I look back over my life, if you're a teenager, and before you enter into your relationships, if you're a teenager, you're not yet in a relationship with your bank manager or your boss or your lover to give you an agenda or to inhibit the things you say. While you're young and before all that responsibility happens, the truths you speak are raw and unvarnished. And you see some of that in these clips. Kia ora, Carl.
The Aotearoa it ebbs and it flows, it changes its ways, only rivers can know.
We are voyagers. We are the oar piercing the tide.
This is a film about the overstayers issues.
Corned beef and sapasui. We have hard hands and twisted tongues. We are the ones who take too much, and yet we are the things that are taken.
You all steam and no honey.
I'm hungry. I'm hungry.
Ass. Who am I? What do I do?
Man.
What do I do?
Man.
I'm the barking up in the celly!
It takes a lot of practice to become a manu master. Manu masters. Just give me a chance. I won't let you down. I won't fail you.
E rangi rāia.
Rangi, mau ki e nei kupu. Aha kua te aha, mā ku koe manaaki.
Me te waka te kapa. Ngā tōpito, o te taina eti, te reo whakakotahi iwi. Te reo Ngāti Poru. Look at her, she's looking at you all pretty, G. You got this. Yeah, just go, Richard. You got this, shot. Don't live the past and blast. That's a sugar-proof chicken history. I'm a Mr. Forget. How come I never see you outside of school?
Maybe because I don't hang out with you and your gang.
Well, there's a home waiting for you. When you want to quit playing gangster.
Aotearoa became popular in New Zealand, gaining recognition in parts of the world. In one weekend in 1966 alone, it is recorded that 12,000 cars and 50,000 people visited Aotearoa Beach and harvested about 1 million tohiroa.
Aotearoa persists longer.
Now, the point about these films and these young people are, these young people have travelled around the country and trained 3,000 or 4,000 young people around New Zealand and making their own films. They've travelled to many countries around the world to work with their peers in other countries so that they too can tell their own stories. Our Māori Land Charitable Trust has that film training thing happening on the side. In our premises, yes, we have our yearly annual festival. I'll show you a little bit of that soon. But we also have an art gallery at the front, and the stuff is just flying off the walls. We have organic gardens out the back. We have renovated a space so that we have artists in residence. We operate all year round. We've got about 22 staff working for us. Most of those are young people who we've trained. You train up young people, they won't leave you. They just won't go away. So we teach them how to look for work. We teach them how to pitch. They do their own budgeting. They get contracts and they hang around and they just do stuff and they teach the next generation of rangatahi. And so now we have 12-year-olds, our pickle generation, at the festival introducing films and doing Q&As. Carl, I could ask you please just to play that last clip but keep the sound down. And so this is just a little bit of a hint in terms of what it looks like during our festival and as an example of a community endeavour. This was in March of this year. It was the 10th year of our festival. In our first festival, we had something like 6 overseas guests. This year we had 120. We inject now 7 figures into the economy during the week of the festival. And we find that actually one of the big problems we had was to get our Māori parents to come along to the festival. More than Pākehās. Pākehās came along quite easily. But it took a while to convince Māori parents that film was not just an entertainment and that it wasn't just about Mission Impossible and going to the pictures and that there was substance and worth to the stories that are told on film. They got it because they came along to watch the films that their young people were making. And ka whaka te kapa, and a light bulb goes on in their mind. So what we found with the creation of the Māori Land Charitable Trust, based on our Māori Land Film Festival, all the training that we do and the community activities we have, the secure relationship we have with the tribe, it's going great guns. We've been asked time and time again, as Sylvia said, to do the cookie cutter thing and to send Māori land to other areas throughout the country. But no, That's not going to happen because Ōtaki is its own personality. Ōtaki has its own language journey, its own story. Other areas around the country have their own stories too, and that's precious and that's beautiful. The Māori Land Charitable Trust and what we do at Māori Land gives me now my pinch me moments when I walk into work. Yes, I love working with my peers on projects and all that kind of thing, but I'm getting such a blast out of being with our young people and seeing what they do. Those stories, the extracts that you saw, talk of suicide, unwanted pregnancies, finding peace in war. These are the things that our young people are interested in. And so we're convinced more than ever that as we develop a new way in the post-COVID, post-AI environment that is community-based, two of the things that have to inform the infrastructure of our thinking are concerns for our rangatahi and pastoral care. Big time. Pastoral care. We need to have time or take time to look after our people. As Dennis Potter, the great English playwright, once said, lest we be complicit with the orthodoxy of the status quo. We have to shatter the status quo. We all know that things are going wrong. We all have within our grasp and in our worlds and in our lives and in our families answers that we intuit are the way forward. So my mihi to this conference for promoting the idea of collaboration, because collaboration can't help with a sense of pride in who you are, what you know, and a sense of humility before that which you don't know, because we all got to share this stuff together. No one could be a Māori, and actually a human being, by themselves. We all exist because of and with other people. For me, I'm grateful that as a Māori, I have tikanga and whakapapa and all these concepts that give me a bit of a guide, that help me through my life. And as I look back over that life, like I say, I'm pleased I made the decisions I did. Like everyone in this room, I've had my own tragedies and tough times and all of that. But I've made it. I've got to 65 to a great degree because I'm I'm an overflowing glass kind of guy. I believe in tikanga because they have taught me a sense of my humanity. In fact, the more I learn about being Māori, the more really I only learn about being human. And that connection we have as human beings in New Zealand is something that we can still grasp onto. I feel sorry for Turtle Island. Tough times over there. Tough times over there, Sylvia. And certainly on your side of the border, I do have a happy day. But e hoa mā, ka nui tēnei mō tēnei wā. Nui te aroha nā mātou o Māori Land me Ōtaki, kia koutou. We wish you the very best for your own journeys, your own personal stories, your organisation stories. New Zealand is one of the last places perhaps in the world where we can have the collaboration that we really dream of. It's an accident of circumstance and history, but on the small island in the South Pacific, with a population only the size of a small city overseas, we should be able to get our shit together. We should be. We should be. Nā reira, tēnā koutou katoa.